Kathryn Grayson was an American actress and soprano. For the age of 12, Grayson trained as an opera singer. She was under contract to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer by the early 1940s, soon establishing a career principally through her work in musicals. After several supporting roles, she was a lead performer in such films as Thousands Cheer, Anchors, Aweigh with Frank Sinatra and Gene Kelly, and Showboat and Kiss Me Kate, both with Howard Keel. When film musical production declined, she worked in theatre, appearing in Camelot. Later in the decade she performed in several operas, including La Bohème, Madama Butterfly, Orpheus in the Underworld and La Traviata. Early life. She was born Zelma Catherine Elizabeth Hedrick in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, the daughter of Charles E. Hedrick and Lillian Grayson Hedrick. Charles was a building contractor realtor. Lillian was of British, Russian and Native American descent, and Charles was of German and Sicilian descent. The Hedrick family later moved to St. Louis, Missouri, where she was discovered singing on the empty stage of the St. Louis Municipal Opera House by a janitor, who introduced her to Francis Marshall of the Chicago Civic Opera, who gave the 12-year-old girl voice lessons. Grayson's sister, Frances Rayburn, was also an actress and singer, appearing alongside her in the films Seven Sweethearts. She also had two brothers, Clarence Bud E. Hedrick and Harold. Film career. 1940s. In 1940, an MGM talent scout saw Grayson performing at a music festival. Metro hoped to find a replacement for Deanna Durbin, who left the studio for Universal Pictures. For the next 18 months, Grayson went through voice lessons, drama coaching, diction, diets and exercise. Within a year, Grayson had her first screen TED. However, the studio executives were not satisfied, and she went through a further 6 months of lessons until she made her first film appearance in 1941's Andy Hardy's Private Secretary as the character's secretary Catherine Land. In the film, she takes part in 3 musical numbers. 2 further films were planned for Grayson in 1941, White House Girl, which was later made in 1948 with Durbin, and Very Warm for May, for the Jerome Kern and Oscar Hammerstein musical of the same name. And Southern was also slated to appear, however, this fell through as well. The film eventually was made in 1944 as Broadway Rhythm. She appeared in 3 films in 1942, The Vanishing Virginian, Rio Rita and Seven Sweethearts. In the first, Grayson plays the teenage daughter, Rebecca, of the eccentric Yancey family from Lynchburg, Virginia. Set in 1913, the film was based on Rebecca Yancey Williams's own family. Grayson co-starred in Rio Rita with Abbott and Costello. Grayson portrayed the title character, Rita Winslow. The film was originally meant to be an adaptation of the 1927 Broadway musical. However, only 2 songs were retained for the film, the title song, and the Ranger song, which was performed by Grayson. Co-starring Van Heflin, Seven Sweethearts cast Grayson as the youngest of 7 daughters from Holland, Michigan, who is hired by reporter-photographer Heflin to serve as a model and secretary while he covers the town's Tulip Festival, and with whom he falls in love. In 1943, Grayson appeared in the film Thousands Cheer, along with Gene Kelly, Mickey Rooney, Eleanor Powell, June Allison and others. The film was intended as a morale booster for American troops and the families. Grayson starred as the singing daughter of an Army commander. It was announced in 1942 that Grayson would appear in an American symphony with Judy Garland. Garland was replaced by June Allison, and the film was retitled as Two Sisters from Boston, and released in 1946. Grayson did not appear in any films for nearly 2 years, but instead worked at entertaining troops during the war and performed performing on radio programs. She returned to films in Anchor's Aweigh, a musical romantic comedy set in Los Angeles and co-starring Kelly and Frank Sinatra. Anchor's Aweigh was the fifth highest-grossing film of 1945, earning over $4.779 million. This was followed by Two Sisters from Boston and guest appearances in Ziegfeld Follies and Till the Clouds Roll By. Grayson's performance in Till the Clouds Roll By included make-believe in a capsule version of the musical Showboat, which would be remade 5 years later, with Grayson in the starring role. MGM repaired Grayson and Sinatra for 2 movies in 1947 and 1948. It Happened in Brooklyn and The Kissing Bandit. Both films performed poorly at the box office, and audiences thought the plots absurd. After the setbacks of Brooklyn and Bandit, Grayson was partnered with tenor Mario Lanza in That Midnight Kiss in 1949. 1950s. In 1950, Grayson was once again partnered with Lanza, and portrayed an opera singer in The Toast of New Orleans, and performed the Academy Award-nominated song Be My Love. While shooting the Madama Butterfly scene in the film, Lanza kept attempting to French kiss Grayson, which Grayson claimed was made even worse by the fact that Lanza would constantly eat garlic before shooting. Grayson went to costume designer Helen Rose and she sewed pieces of brass into Grayson's gloves. Anytime Lanza attempted to French kiss her after that, she hit him with the brass-filled glove. For the premiere of the film, Grayson traveled to New Orleans, and was a guest at an auction selling the film's costumes. Grayson replaced June Allison as the role of Ina Massine in 1951's Grounds for Marriage. She portrayed an opera singer with laryngitis, alongside Van Johnson, who played her doctor and love interest. This was also her first non-singing role at MGM. Grayson's musical performances do appear in the film, but in the form of recordings. Grayson was next cast as Magnolia Hawks in the 1951 remake of the 1927 Hammerstein and Kern musical, Showboat, alongside Howard Keel and Judy Garland. However, Garland dropped out of production, and the role went to Ava Gardner. Showboat was the third highest-grossing film of 1951, earning over $5.533 million. Grayson teamed again with Keel in the 1952 Technicolor musical Lovely to Look At, a remake of the 1935 Aaron Rodgers film Roberta. She was released to the Warner Brothers studio in January 1953, with the stipulation that she returned to MGM for one more film. She returned to co-star for a third time with Howard Keel in her most acclaimed role as Lily Nessie, Katharina in Kiss Me Kate, released in November 1953. The film was lavishly produced, with songs by Cole Porter, choreography by Hermes Pan, and musical direction by Andre Previn. Grayson's double role allowed her to display many moods, from feisty to gentle to humorous. Warner Brothers. While on loan to Warner Brothers, her first musical release was The Desert Song, May 1953, alongside Gordon MacRae. She was asked to perform La Bohème at the Central City Opera House in Central City, Colorado, but due to her filming obligations for The Desert Song, she had to turn it down. Warner Brothers starred her in a second musical that year, So This Is Love. Grayson appeared on television occasionally, having guest-starred in the CBS anthology series, General Electric Theatre in the episode, Shadow on the Heart, with John Erickson, and on Playhouse 90 in the title role of the Alone Woman, with Raymond Burr and Scott Brady in the historical roles of the brothers Charles and William Bent, respectively. In the 1980s, Grayson guest-starred in 3 episodes of CBS's Murder, She Wrote with Angela Lansbury. Stage career. Grayson appeared on stage in numerous productions, including Showboat, Rosalinda, Kiss Me, Kate, Naughty Marietta, and The Merry Widow, for which she was nominated for Chicago's Sarah Siddons Award. In 1953, Grayson optioned the story It's Greek to Me, written by Helen Deutsch, to be accompanied by a score from Cole Porter. The story was a mythical love story about Hercules and Hippolyte, and Grayson hoped to be reunited with Howard Keel and take the show on the road. However, the project fell apart. Her casting in The Merry Widow led to her replacing Julie Andrews in 1962 as Queen Guinevere in Camelot. She then continued the role for over 16 months in the national tour of the United States before leaving for health reasons. Grayson had a lifelong dream of being an opera star, and she appeared in a number of operas in the 1960s, such as La Bohème, Madame Butterfly, Orpheus in the Underworld, and La Traviata. Her dramatic and comedy stage roles included Night Watch, Noise Is Off, Love Letters, and Something's Afoot as Dottie Otterling. Musical career. Grayson trained from the age of 12 as an opera singer. While appearing in her film roles, Grayson also performed on the radio. Grayson performed on concert tours throughout the 1950s. In May 1951, Grayson had to postpone a concert tour due to being unknowingly cast in Lovely to Look At. My concert bookings were all set, so when I read in New York that I was to do this film, I said, how silly. Then boom. The next day I got my studio telegram asking me to return for the picture. In 1952, Grayson was offered more than $10,000 to perform for a week at the Riviera nightclub in New Jersey before making The Desert Song. After filming The Desert Song, Grayson created a recording of the musical with Tony Martin. Grayson supervised the voice and choral studies program at Idaho State University. Personal life. Grayson married twice, first to actor John Shelton and then to the actor-singer Johnny Johnston. John Shelton. Shelton and Grayson eloped to Las Vegas, Nevada, where they were married on July 11, 1941. The two had courted for 18 months, after meeting while making screen tests. In July 1942, Shelton moved out of the Brentwood home and into his own apartment. This came after a month of reconciliation after a judge dismissed the divorce suit. Grayson charged Shelton with mental cruelty. They divorced on June 17, 1946. Johnny Johnston. Grayson wed singer-actor Johnny Johnston on August 22, 1947 in Carmel, California. On October 7, 1948, Grayson's only child, daughter Patricia Patty Kate Kathryn Johnston, was born. Patricia married Robert Towers and had two children, Jordan Towers and Kristen Towers Rolls. Jordan became the lead singer of the band Some Kinder Wonderful, and is the father of Jasmine Towers and Teddy Towers. Kristen became a musical actress and director, and is the mother of Rhino Rolls, Michaela Rolls and Amelia Rolls. Grayson and Johnston separated on November 15, 1950. On October 3, 1951, Grayson was granted a divorce from Johnston on the grounds of mental cruelty. Johnston's This Time for Keeps co-star Esther Williams claimed in her 1999 autobiography that while making the film, Johnston would read Grayson's intimate letters aloud to the girls in his fan club, including the all-too-graphic details concerning what she liked about his love-making. Though she never married again, Grayson was frequently seen in the late 1950s with Robert Evans. According to her secretary, Grayson died in her sleep at her home in Los Angeles, California on February 17, 2010, aged 88. Filmography. Stage work. Madame Butterfly, La Traviata, La Bohème, The Merry Widow, Naughty Marietta, Rosalinda, Camelot, Showboat, Night Watch, Orpheus in the Underworld, Something's Afoot, Noise is Off, Love Letters, Red Socks and Roses.